I remember the exact moment everything fell apart. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't even a fight. It was a single sentence spoken with such casual cruelty that it felt like someone had stabbed a knife into my chest and twisted. I'm working. Late again. Just catching up with colleagues. Don't wait up. That was it. No warning, no warmth, just a cold dismissal through a text message. He didn't even bother calling. But I knew. I knew. It wasn't the first time he said those words. For months, catching up with colleagues had become his mantra. Every Wednesday night, then Thursdays, some Fridays too. At first, I didn't question it. We'd been married for 8 years. Built a life. Bought a house. Shared dreams and whispered secrets in the dark. But then the distance began. The hollow silences. The way he'd recoil from my touch. How he'd flinch when I asked the simplest questions. I told myself it was work stress. I told myself it was just a phase. I told myself everything except the truth. Until one night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. He left again, muttering something about a client dinner. I watched him walk out the door with that same disinterested expression, dressed far too sharply for a casual meal, and something inside me snapped. Not in rage, but in clarity. Like a veil had been lifted. So I followed him. I told myself I wasn't the kind of woman who spies on her husband, that I was above suspicion, above doubt. But when betrayal becomes a possibility, when it claws at your heart every night and taints every word, you either break or you investigate. I chose the latter. I stayed back for 10 minutes, then grabbed my coat, got into my car, and trailed behind the Uber he'd ordered. It wasn't hard. He wasn't even trying to hide. No burner phone, no aliases, just carelessness. The car stopped at a restaurant I'd never even heard of, not the usual business spot. Dim lighting, romantic ambiance, the kind of place people go to celebrate anniversaries or to destroy them. I stayed in the shadows, my heart thudding so loud I thought it might burst. I watched him through the glass. And then, she appeared, younger, blonde, wearing the kind of dress I hadn't worn in years. She smiled at him like he was the world, and he smiled back like I never existed. That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't some impulsive fling. This was planned, ongoing, polished with secrecy. He'd built a parallel life, one where I was a shadow, and she was the center of it all. I should have confronted him right there, right in the middle of the restaurant. I should have stormed in and thrown a drink in his face like some melodramatic movie scene, but I didn't, because something deeper than rage took over. Resolve. He thought he was being clever. He thought I was too blind, too trusting, too weak to know. But he was wrong. So very wrong. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I drove home in silence, my hands on the wheel, my mind already spinning. If he wanted to play this game, I was ready to learn the rules. Because betrayal like that doesn't get swept under the rug. It doesn't get forgiven with a bouquet of sorry roses or a half-hearted apology. No, it demands consequences. And I was going to make sure he faced every single one of them. For days after that night, I moved like a ghost through my own home, our home. Every room felt like a stage where I'd unknowingly played the role of a fool. The kitchen where we used to cook together, tainted. The living room where we once laughed at bad TV, silent. Our bedroom, that was the worst. The sheets, the pillows, even the air felt polluted with lies. But I kept smiling. I kept my voice steady. I played my part because I needed time. Time to understand just how deep his betrayal went. And with every breadcrumb I uncovered, the picture grew uglier. He wasn't just seeing her, he was funding her. I noticed the credit card bills first. Charges at boutiques I'd never visited, dinners I'd never attended, hotel stays on nights he claimed he was too busy to come home. At first I thought maybe they were for clients or team outings. But then I saw her name in a Venmo transaction buried in his shared expenses folder for drinks last night. Casual, careless. And there was more. I found a separate phone hidden in his desk drawer, tucked behind some old paperwork. Locked, of course, but not for long. He'd used the same passcode as the one on his main phone. 4 digits. 4 simple digits standing between me and the ugly truth. When the screen lit up, I saw it all. Their texts, their pictures, his pet names, her flirty selfies, plans to go away next weekend while I was supposed to be visiting my sister. He wasn't just unfaithful, he was methodical. He'd created a dual life where I was the dull, dependable wife who kept things running while she was the escape, the reward for putting up with me. That stung more than I can explain. I began to wonder, was I ever enough for him? Or had he always been waiting for an excuse to trade me in like an old car? Then came the worst blow. He started pushing for separation. Not directly. He was too much of a coward for that. Instead, he suggested we take some space, that he needed time to figure things out. He said I seemed stressed. I seemed stressed? He was cheating and somehow made it sound like I was the problem. That's when I knew he was preparing for a clean break. One where he could leave with his new prize while I got stuck with the bills, the house, and the shame. But it wasn't just emotional damage he was planning to inflict. It was financial. I checked our joint accounts and noticed slow, deliberate transfers. 1,000 here, 2,000 there, moved into accounts I didn't recognize. He was bleeding us dry, slowly enough that he probably thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. And I realized in that moment that his betrayal was bigger than infidelity. It was a full-on attack on my life, my stability, and my future. He was trying to erase me, to start fresh while I cleaned up the mess. He wanted to walk, away with a newer woman, a fuller wallet, and no consequences. But he had made one fatal mistake. He underestimated me. He saw me as someone who wouldn't fight back, someone who would cry, crumble, and sign the papers quietly. Maybe that's how I looked from the outside. But inside, something had shifted. My heartbreak had turned into fire, a slow-burning, relentless fire that would not be ignored. I didn't want him back. I didn't want revenge for the sake of petty satisfaction. What I wanted, what I needed, was justice. I needed him to know that you don't get to betray someone's trust, destroy a life, and then walk away clean. So I began to plan. Quietly, carefully. Because if he thought he'd won, he was in for the shock of his life. You know, betrayal. By itself is bad enough. It shatters something deep within you, a belief that the person you loved and trusted would always protect you. But when betrayal threatens the very foundation of your life, that's when the pain turns into something else entirely. This wasn't just about my heart anymore. This was about my home. Our house was under both our names, but guess who had stopped contributing to the mortgage 6 months ago? He had. Quietly. Without saying a word. I was paying for everything, groceries, bills, insurance, while he siphoned money to his hidden accounts and lavished gifts on her. I found receipts for a spa weekend in Aspen. Meanwhile, I was clipping coupons and worrying about our rising utility costs. The ultimate insult? He thought I wouldn't figure it out, that I was too preoccupied with being the good wife to notice the numbers didn't add up. That I'd keep floating the finances while he prepared to leave me broke and broken. But what he didn't realize was that everything he took from me, every lie, every dollar, every stolen moment, only made me sharper, stronger. There was also my career. I'd taken a step back from work to help support his promotion. I handled the home front, took care of his aging mother when she was sick, canceled my own work trips to be present at his events. Now all that sacrifice was being weaponized against me. He started implying that maybe I wasn't as motivated as I used to be, that I had changed. Yes, I had changed. I'd grown into someone who put her family first, who believed in partnership. And he used that against me. Now he wanted to walk away with the shiny parts of our life, the assets, the freedom, the woman who didn't know what she was getting into, while leaving me holding the crumbling pieces. But the worst part? It was the emotional manipulation. He gaslit me, made me question my sanity, told me I was paranoid, that I was being insecure for wondering why he never looked me in the eye anymore, that maybe I was the reason things weren't working, that if I just lightened up, he might feel closer to me again. For a while, I believed it. I questioned myself. I thought maybe I was too demanding, too intense, too suspicious. But then I saw the truth laid out in his messages and his bank statements and his smug, careless lies. And then there was my family, my friends. I had covered for him for months, made excuses when he skipped holidays, laughed off his busy schedule when people asked where he was. I was the one protecting his image while he tarnished mine behind my back. I overheard him one night on the phone telling someone, maybe her, that I was cold, not fun anymore, and a little controlling. Me, after all I'd done? I thought about my future, about the 10 years I'd invested into this marriage, about the kids we had planned for but never had, because we were waiting for the right time, a time he now planned to spend with someone else. He thought he could just walk away, that I'd roll over, maybe cry, maybe scream, and then sign the divorce papers like a good little wife. That I'd let him walk into a new life, unfazed, while I spent years trying to rebuild what he tore apart. But he was wrong. I wasn't just fighting for revenge. I was fighting for my dignity. For every woman who'd ever been dismissed, deceived, and discarded. For every dream he'd tried to kill with his lies. For the life I deserved. And I wasn't going to wait around for karma to find him. I was going to become karma. I didn't scream. I didn't break things. I didn't confront him in a rage. Because I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of knowing I was broken. Instead, I got quiet, focused, intentional. I started planning. My goal wasn't just to make him pay, I wanted him exposed. I wanted his lies, his arrogance, and his smug entitlement to unravel right in front of him. I wanted the truth to be undeniable. Undeniable even to her, the woman he thought would be the fresh start to his fairy tale. But I knew I couldn't go in blind. If I wanted justice, I needed to play smart. No emotional outbursts, no impulsive moves. Everything had to be calculated, meticulous. Step 1. Secure my own finances. I opened a private checking and savings account under my own name at a separate bank. Transferred small amounts each week from my freelance payments, birthday money, and refund checks, just enough to build a cushion without drawing suspicion. I began documenting every expense I'd paid alone for the last 6 months. Groceries, utilities, mortgage payments. Every receipt was saved, logged, and time-stamped. Step 2. Gather evidence. I took photos of his hidden phone, screenshots of his messages with her, the Venmo payments, and the hotel confirmations. I printed our joint bank statements and highlighted each transaction that linked to her, boutiques, salons, dinners, all paid for with our money. I created a file. A physical, well-organized file that documented his betrayal, one that no lawyer could argue with. I installed a discreet app on my phone that allowed me to record conversations. Every time he dropped a passive-aggressive comment, every time he hinted at wanting a clean break, I hit record. He had no idea I was building a wall of truth brick by brick. Step 3. Enlist quiet allies. I reached out to one of his colleagues, Monica, someone I'd always liked and trusted. Carefully, without giving too much away, I asked if she knew about the colleague dinners he claimed he was attending. She hesitated, then admitted, "We haven't had a team dinner in almost a year." That's when I knew I had her. I didn't ask her to lie for me. I just asked her to be honest if things came to light. She agreed, and she wasn't the only one. His assistant, a sweet girl named Rachel, told me in confidence that she often scheduled meetings that never actually happened. He said they were just placeholders, she said, eyes wide. Is everything okay? I smiled. It will be. Step 4. Reclaim my power. I started dressing differently, holding my head higher. I stopped asking him where he was going or when he'd be home. I started going out with friends again. I smiled more, laughed more, lived more. And that threw him off. He'd come home and study me like I was a stranger. "You seem different," he said once, suspicious. "Everything all right?" "Never better," I replied with a smile so calm it scared even me. That was the moment I knew I had him rattled. The final piece of the puzzle? A lawyer. A damn good one. I scheduled a consultation with a fierce, no-nonsense woman named Lisa, who specialized in high-asset divorces and spousal deception. When I showed her my file, she nodded in quiet approval. "You've done your homework," she said. "Oh, I'm just getting started." Lisa helped me draft a preliminary divorce plan. We discussed spousal support, asset division, and the fact that, based on my financial records and the evidence of infidelity, I had a strong case for equitable compensation and even a potential fraud claim. But I wasn't going to serve him yet. No, that would come later. First, I wanted him to walk into his own undoing. I wanted him to feel safe, secure, triumphant, because there's no sweeter justice than watching someone fall from the pedestal they built for themselves. The plan was in motion. The trap was set. He thought I was clueless, but soon he'd realize I was 10 steps ahead. And when the time came, I wouldn't just walk away with my dignity. I'd walk away with the truth, the power, and everything he thought he'd stolen. There's something terrifyingly beautiful about knowing the truth and keeping it to yourself. He still came home every night like he was doing me a favor. Still texted her under the covers, still lied with a straight face about working late, but I didn't confront him. Not yet. I smiled and kissed his cheek, and pretended like I didn't see the lipstick-stained receipt for a lunch date with her crumpled in his coat pocket. Because now, every lie was evidence, every deceit was ammunition, and I was ready to use it. The first real step was strengthening my legal footing. Lisa, my lawyer, helped me quietly update my will, financial power of attorney, and made sure all joint accounts were being monitored. We filed paperwork to begin separating our financial interests without triggering alarm. Simple steps like adjusting direct deposits, removing his name from future business income, and updating my freelance tax structure. Then came the digital deep dive. I spent nights, long, silent nights, going through his emails, his cloud backups, his calendar. And I found gold. There were receipts he forgot to delete, calendar invites to marketing retreats that were really weekends away with her, and even photos stored in an auto-synced folder he must have thought was private. Him with her on a boat. Him with her at a resort I had once dreamed of visiting with him. It was all so perfectly damning. I compiled everything into a timeline: dates, locations, costs, messages. I printed it and backed it up in 3 places: my private cloud, an encrypted flash drive, and 1 hard copy locked in my best friend's safe. I wasn't taking chances. Then I started making moves outside the house. I reconnected with old colleagues, dusted off my resume, and reignited a few consulting opportunities I had put on hold for him. I wasn't just preparing to leave, I was preparing to rise. And it was working. He started noticing the change. He asked fewer questions and made more nervous glances at my phone. He even made a weak attempt at being affectionate. Maybe we should take a trip, he offered one night. Just the 2 of us. A trip? Now that he sensed he was losing control? I played along. Sure, I said, smiling sweetly. Let's plan something soon. Then I sent screenshots of his weekend getaway bookings with her to Lisa. She filed them neatly under evidence of concealment. But the real turning point, the moment the game tilted entirely in my favor, came when I intercepted a text meant for her. He'd left his unlocked phone on the counter while showering. My hands trembled as I picked it up, but I kept calm. There it was. Can't wait to be done with her. It's like living with a wet blanket. I'll be free soon, baby. Free soon? Oh, I'd make sure of that. I forwarded the message to my phone, took a screenshot, and printed it. Then I started preparing for the confrontation. Lisa and I picked a date. A Friday morning, just after payday, when I knew he'd be most distracted and least guarded. The paperwork was ready: divorce filing, financial disclosures, asset division proposals. We had frozen joint credit lines, flagged suspicious transactions with the bank, and secured a court date if needed. I even called his mother, a woman I'd cared for like my own, and told her everything. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. I thought you deserved to know the truth, I said. She cried. And then she thanked me. By the end of that week, I had everything: legal prep, emotional support, financial protection, and all the proof. I needed to expose his lies without saying a single word more than necessary. But I didn't want just a legal win. I wanted her to know, too. So I printed a curated package of evidence. Just enough. The text about being a wet blanket, the receipts, the selfies he took with both of us within days of each other. I sealed it in an envelope and dropped it in her mailbox. No return address. No note. Just the truth, hand-delivered. They both deserved to sit in the consequences they had created. And soon, very soon, they would. It happened on a Friday morning, just as planned. He came downstairs dressed for work, tailored slacks, crisp shirt, fake charm. The same man who'd been stabbing me in the back for nearly a year was buttering toast like we were still in love. I waited until he took the first bite. There's something I want to show you, I said calmly, sliding a thick envelope across the kitchen island. He looked down at it like it might explode. What's this? He asked, a hint of unease finally cracking through the facade. Open it. Inside was everything: printouts of text messages, bank statements, hotel receipts, and screenshots from his second phone. All organized by date, highlighted, labeled. And on top, that one beautiful quote. Can't wait to be done with her. It's like living with a wet blanket. He paled. I don't know what this is supposed to... It's the truth, I cut in, standing tall. All of it. You've been lying, cheating, stealing from our joint accounts, and gaslighting me while living a double life. And now, you don't have to wait to be done with me, because I'm done with you. His face shifted between rage and fear. He opened his mouth again, but I didn't let him speak. I've already filed for divorce. My lawyer served the papers this morning. Your accounts are being audited. And don't worry, I made sure to send your little girlfriend a package too. She should be finding out about your wet blanket comment around by now. He stood up, knocking his chair over. You think you're clever? I don't. Think it. I know it. You wanted to ruin me quietly. You wanted to walk away with everything smug and clean. But instead, you're leaving with your lies exposed and a lawsuit on your back. He lunged for the file, but I snatched it first. You don't get to rewrite the story anymore. This is mine now. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. A part of me expected him to come back, to yell, to apologize, to try something manipulative, but he didn't, because he knew. He was caught, dead to rights. That afternoon, I called the bank to finalize the freeze on the remaining joint accounts. I changed all the passwords, double-checked the locks, and, just for good measure, scheduled a locksmith to change every door in the house. The house I was keeping, by the way. Lisa made sure of that. 2 days later, his mother called me. I don't know what to say, she whispered, heartbroken. I had no idea. I know, I said gently. You weren't the one who betrayed me. There was silence then. He called me, blamed you, said you set him up. But I told him, no, son, you set yourself up. That was when I knew karma had begun her work. The girlfriend? Gone. She blocked him on everything, humiliated by the package I'd sent and the reality check it delivered. Apparently, she had no idea he was married, at least not legally, and she wanted nothing to do with the mess he had created. His workplace caught wind too. Not from me, I never stooped that low, but from whispers, from his behavior unraveling, from his performance slipping as his life imploded. Monica, his colleague, messaged me a few weeks later. He's been a wreck, can barely keep it together in meetings. Whatever you did, respect. But it wasn't about destruction. It was about truth. It was about balance. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't lose myself. I watched as he lost the fake life he tried to build on betrayal. And I rebuilt mine, not from scratch, but from strength. I expanded my freelance work into a full-time business. I traveled, solo. I hosted dinners with friends who once pitied me and now admired me. I didn't just survive. I thrived. And every time I get a legal update about another delay in his fraud investigation, or I see him try to smooth talk his way through another failed mediation meeting, I smile, because he wanted to walk away clean. But I made sure his footprints were soaked in truth. This was never just about revenge. It was about reclaiming power, rewriting the story, and reminding him, and myself, that some women aren't victims of betrayal. They're architects of consequence.